Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Idahoan Show. I recently posted kind of a rambling episode of me reflecting on the first 10 years of the Idahoan Show, since I've been running the channel for about 10 years now. And then it occurred to me that it might have been more entertaining and useful, especially to newer subscribers, if I'd actually gone through my old episodes or my last 10 years of episodes and kind of hit the highlights and presented more of a coherent history of the channel. So that's what we're doing today. I started the Idahoan Show in December of 2011. The first video I ever posted was a trial and demonstration of an apparatus that I constructed that allowed me to mount a camcorder on my shoulder, mostly with the intent of recording videos at the shooting range from a first-person perspective. Nowadays, this kind of first-person shooting footage is pretty common, but this was largely before the rise of action cameras, and so at the time it was kind of a novel approach. Admittedly, my system was a bit crude. It worked, but it was rather uncomfortable to wear, and it was hard to tell if the camera was aligned properly since I couldn't see the view screen while wearing it. Nevertheless, I soon put my shoulder-mounted camera to use in filming a handful of gun reviews, which would remain some of my most popular videos for some time. However, the video that helped my channel initially get discovered was actually a video response that I made to TN Outdoors. He'd posted a video demonstrating that green tip 223 rounds would punch right through a 1/4 inch of mild steel, and I commented on it saying that I thought just about any 223 round would do that, not just green tip penetrators. Someone else responded to my comment challenging me to prove it, so I made a video doing just that. In those days, there was a feature where you could specifically post a video as a response to another video. I dearly miss that feature. I expect it got retired because too many people were abusing it, posting irrelevant videos as responses on popular videos just to try and get attention. However, used correctly, it allowed for relatively seamless public video discussions between different channels that could be really interesting and informative. So it's a shame they got rid of it. I know you can always post a link to another video in a comment, but that just doesn't provide anywhere near the same level of interconnectivity between videos that the original feature did. Anyway, my response demonstration about the penetration of 223 through mild steel was my first video to exceed 1,000 views, and was veritably what initially got my channel discovered. That said, once people started to find my channel, my video about carving custom revolver grips soon eclipsed the penetration demonstration. I'm sure it was my first video to exceed 10,000 views, and it remained my most popular video for a number of years. During those first few months of the Idahoan Show, I also posted some theological videos as well as a few videos about outdoor survival topics like fire building and knife sharpening. So right from the start, my channel covered a variety of content reflecting the scope of my interests. Within the first year of starting the channel, I moved from my parents' home in the suburbs to a piece of property that I bought outside of town, where I initially lived in a camp trailer while I began construction. Between working my regular job and working on construction, I had limited time to pursue hobbies, so my video posting became somewhat sporadic for several years until I got my construction projects mostly under control. However, I didn't completely forget about the channel during this time. In December of 2014, I finally upgraded from an old standard definition mini DV camcorder to a more modern, albeit entry-level, HD camcorder. My presentation of the Christmas song Song of Bethlehem was the first video that I filmed in high definition. The year 2017 marked a turning point for my channel. I had recently finished most of my initial construction projects, and now that I had a proper workshop, I was able to take on new challenges. At the end of 2016, I had also just recently passed the 1,000 subscriber mark, which may have boosted my channel's status in the eyes of YouTube's algorithms. One of the first things I did with my then new machine tools was to make the Utah pistol. However, shortly after making it, I decided to make an additional rifled barrel for it without using any machine tools, just to prove it could be done and document the method of rifling that I'd used earlier. My resulting video on making a rifled barrel without machine tools went viral, soon eclipsing even my video on making revolver grips as my most popular video. That video about barrel making was my first video to exceed 1 million views, and while it had taken me 4 years to accumulate my first 1,000 subscribers, that number more than doubled within a month, and I continued to gain about 1,000 subscribers a month for most of that year. Then people started to discover my slightly earlier video about building the Utah, and it began to take off as well. In fact, it has now become my most popular video with more than 3 million views to date. The winter of 2016-17 also witnessed the first of the Jackrabbit Wars. Although my dramatization of shooting jackrabbits at my haystack is not by any means my most viewed set of videos, it seems like they're the ones that people most remember. At any rate, when I meet people who've seen my channel, these seem to be the ones they're most likely to bring up in conversation. I also built my percussion muzzleloading blunderbuss in 2017. The following year, I tested quite a number of barrels for the Utah. Ironically, the experiment that got the most attention was the 9mm barrel that I made from plumbing pipe, which worked but wasn't very accurate because the bore was a little too large for the bullet to engage the rifling properly. I ended up reaming it out, re-rifling it in .40 caliber and chambering it for .40 S&W, after which it worked much better. However, ironically, the follow-up video didn't get nearly as many views. I built my reverse cycle pump-action shotgun later that year. 2018 was also the year that I started going through the Psalms and composing my so-called Idahoan Psalter, which I'm still working on and periodically posting installments of. Blessed is the man who heeds not worldly counsel, nor stands with the sinners, nor sits with the scornful, but delights in the law of the Lord. In early 2019, I built my so-called Jefferson. My video about building it stands out as one that got a lot less views than I expected, and for no apparent reason. Both the gun design and the video quality are much better than my video about building the Utah, but my video about building the Jefferson only has about 6,000 views compared with the Utah's 3 million. The only reason I can think of for the discrepancy is that the Jefferson video is much shorter, perhaps giving people the impression that it doesn't go into as much detail or present as much information. But the length difference is mostly due to better video editing. I used time-lapse footage and narrated over the top of it instead of alternating between machining footage and discussion as I had in the case of the Utah. After that, I dove into a series of muzzleloader experiments, of which my most popular video was the overload testing I did on one of my beta pattern muzzleloaders. However, I also posted videos about a couple of folding stock muzzle-loading carbines, my so-called archer's rifle, and a collaborative project with Jorg Sprave to build a muzzleloader that used kitchen matches and rubber bands as a source of ignition. The latter projects may not have been practical in any sense, but they were fun and easy to build, and viewers seemed to like them. Toward the end of 2019, I did a rather lengthy series on testing improvised armor made from various inexpensive materials. I also came about as close as I've ever come to filming a movie that year in the form of a creative intro clip that I created for a video discussing the tactics of a fast draw. In 2020, I was primarily occupied with getting my beta pattern muzzleloader ready for production and formal release. Unfortunately, that project kind of fell apart at the distribution stage, but at least I got a few good videos out of it. That same year, I also built my so-called Champion, a break-action single-shot chambered for 50 Action Express. And I built an experimental video aiming system that I thought might be the future of gun sights. And sure enough, it might be the future of gun sights, but it turns out that with the technology that's available and affordable right now, or at least as of 2020, the system doesn't appear to be very practical in the present. In particular, the video lag time is too great for the sight to be used in any kind of dynamic scenario. However, my most popular video of 2020 by far was my demonstration of the WD-40 method for powder coating aluminum parts. I kicked off 2021 with a presentation of my Idahoan long rifle, a prototype bullpup muzzleloader. Early that year, I also posted my taxonomy of cyber trolls, a concept that I thought would resonate enough with other content creators for the concept to have a good chance of going viral, if not the video itself. However, it never really seemed to take off. 2021 was the year of remote shooting matches. I made entries in the Remote Brutality match and the Wasteland Shuffle, and also staged my own remote match called the Hunter 3-Gun Challenge. As far as I know, though, nobody else has yet made an entry in the Hunter 3-Gun match, so I'm still the winner by default, even though I made some mistakes in running the course that resulted in a very poor score. It was also the year for exploring the possibility of a pistol with rifle-like accuracy, culminating in my experiments with a stabilizing sling on a Springfield XD. And also my exploration of the AR-15 pistol platform, culminating in my development of a stabilizing harness for it. And in a nutshell, that pretty much gets us caught up to the present. Obviously, I haven't covered every individual video that I've made over the past 10 years, but these are some highlights that should give you a sense of where the channel has come from and possibly where it's headed. In the first 10 years of The Idahoan Show, I made a total of about 450 videos, accumulated about 60,000 subscribers, and a little over 11 million total views. So, to all of you who helped make this possible, thanks for watching The Idahoan Show.